Welcome back to the War Room, my beautiful people and fight fans from all around the world. I am your fight goddess, Chris Baldwin, and I am here with my boxing family, women's boxing historian, Melissa Smith, and my boy, Eddie Goldman. We call him the conscious of combat sports. And before I kick it off to you, Melissa, because we've got not Rovember coming in November, but we've also got a month of in October of women's boxing. So before we kick it off to you, I have to tell you guys that my wife's oncologist today said her tumors are benign. So we are in the clear for another 3 months. we gotta keep it going. We gotta keep it going. So I had to give you guys an update on that. So look,
have a drink a lot of green tea.
Right, helps. Green tea. We got all kinds of stuff going on over here, Eddie. You know, I'm putting the tinctures together. So look, Melissa, let's talk about women's boxing because we got a full slate come October, right? It's a full slate. It's going to be exciting. Let's go.
Yeah, well, if we had thought that we were in, September, for September with that huge all-female fight card on September 8th, it's kind of like a little bit of a hybrid because we still have some extraordinary boxing going on in September. And now, Queen died. Okay, boxing came to a halt in England. So on that basis, the fight today was announced that it has been rescheduled for October 15th fight, meaning the all-female fight card, with Claressa Shields fighting Savannah Marshall at the top, and the co-main between Mikaela and Alicia Baumgardner, and another 6 or 7 fights on the undercard. A lot of them are sort of more prospects than everything else, but some really great fighters. I gotta say, it was kind of tragic when the fight was called off. I mean, yeah, the Queen died, but the momentum in the UK was really extraordinary. And I have to say that, yours truly had even been asked by BBC to do an interview. So, damn, just hoping that it comes back in October. And the
say that again, Eddie. Say that again. Your internet's
the
breaking
internet
up.
connection spectrum, a piece of shit system. How will this affect the fighters? Because Claressa Shields wrote on the social media that she had made weight like a day or two before the fight, and that's when this was postponed.
Yes, I know.
And now they have to go back in training. A short training, make weight again in an unusual time frame. How is this going to affect
it's gonna be a really tough sell because a lot of these women do not walk around. Look, in boxing, women in particular don't necessarily walk around at their weight because they never know where they're going to go in the boxing match. They may be up 5 pounds, they may be down 15, because the way that they're getting their opponents and the weights that they're being able to fight in are not necessarily consistent. So yes, it's going to affect them tremendously. And the emotion is going to affect them. I have to tell you, I mean, these women were keyed. They were literally doing they did their weigh-ins. They did the media event the day before where they were out on the docks doing this extraordinary outdoor boxing exhibitions. It was a fever pitch in London. The press was all over it, all up and down. This was not just about the boxing press, but just, again, BBC, all the major players were really part of this, plus all the people who came to England to watch the fight. There were a lot of fans that came from the United States to come watch this fight. Not only that, but there were boxing people who came to be in this fight, to be there and support the women fighting. So whether or not that momentum will be able to come back on the 15th, whether, fighters like Claressa Shields or Savannah Marshall, those at the top of the card, Mikaela, Alicia Baumgardner, can recapture that energy and that emotion and be able to really be able to focus on coming into the fight on weight and with the same kind of keyed into what this fight is. The other thing is, the date also had an effect on Claressa Shields in that she was supposed to jump back into MMA in November. And that's why the September 8th date was to have been the last date. So she and her manager, Mark Taffet, was the ex-HBO PP, boxing pay-per-view guru, had to work with PFL to who she does MMA with, to kind of slip that date. So there were a lot of things specifically around Claressa, never mind all the other fighters on the card who may have had other obligations. So that all being said, the card has been set. Most brilliantly, it will also be at the London O2. So in the same arena, it'll be in London. It's an all-female card. So that's just extraordinary. And whether people will be able to come back for the event, that we'll see how that all goes. One thing Claressa said, though, that was positive, was she said, well, my mom can now get her passport in time and maybe she'll be able to come.
Right.
So that was a big positive. But as I said, September was just prior to when that fight kicked off. There were 2 fights that were held in Costa Rica.
I know. I saw
Um,
some of the
and-
commentary.
Yeah, and they were really great boxing. I mean, talk about a terrific way to lead into an all-female card. Was a card in Costa Rica that was headed up by a female male event, a female main event with Yocasta Valle, who is she is minimum weight at 108, which is the same weight class as Sinisha Estrada, and she fought a Vietnamese fighter, Titu Nguyen. I'm massacring these names, so please I apologize. She was the holder of the WBO world minimum title. And so this was a terrific opportunity to unify. And I got to tell you, Valle was amazing in the ring. She never put a foot wrong. She never put a punch wrong. She had ring mastery. She had superb shot selections. And she was in probably the best shape of her life. So that was an extraordinary fight to watch. A little backstory there is that she had actually come to Golden Boy in the hope of being able to fight Sinisa Estrada at 108 for either a unification or even better as an undisputed opportunity. Sinisa has since left over the summer and she's now with Top Rank. So we'll see how all of that's going to unfold. But I have to tell you, a fight between those 2 women will be extraordinary. And in recognition of her Valle's excellent fighting, she even made the top 10 pound for pound for the ring, and deservedly so.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So the other fight on that card was a woman named Adelaida Ruiz, and she was also just awesome. She fought Sonia Osorio, was for an interim world superfly at WBC, interim, whatever they pay the sanctioning piece. She was the co-main on this fight card. And it was PS, a Golden Boy fight card with 2 women at the top of the card from Costa Rica. So like, hallelujah to you guys.
Right.
Superb boxing, just beautiful. She, again, ring generalship, great movement in the ring. She is something in the Superfly division, and we hope to see more of her because she put on a magnificent performance. And as I said, as a lead into what would have been the September 8th all-female card, it was great. Okay, so that didn't happen, and now here we are, and we've got 2 huge fights this weekend plus 1 debut. The first is Amanda Serrano is fighting this weekend.
She is?
She is. She's fighting in Manchester, England.
What?
She is
I didn't
on
even hear about that fight.
In Manchester, England. And she is going to be unifying featherweight with Valerie Mahood. She's right. Who is she fighting? Let me just get that name. Yeah, she's fighting Mafood, who's 11-0-3. She has an IBF belt, so, it's not like she's coming in there not with
Mhm.
something, you know. Is she gonna be able to really hold off Amanda
She might as
Serrano?
well
We
just
don't
hand
really
that
know.
belt over to Amanda.
But, Serrano will, I know, be looking for KO number 31.
Mhm.
Right now, she's been at 30 KOs for a while, but this is her first fight after Taylor Serrano, because the fight she was supposed to have on Showtime on the Jake Paul card didn't happen, but she will be on this card in Manchester. It'll be televised on ESPN because it's part of a Sky Sports deal, and they're going to be showing it in the
Nice.
United States.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
ESPN Plus.
Yeah, well, ESPN Plus.
Although,
You're
although
correct.
I'm not sure if they're showing her fight, because they're showing the main event of Joe Joyce versus Joseph
Yeah, no, I
Parker. I don't know
understand
how
that
many
they're
fights.
gonna definitely show her fight.
Okay.
That's my understanding from what I was told. But at the same time on DAZN, you're gonna have Hannah Rankin, who has 2 belts now at 154 pounds. And she is going to be fighting Terry Harper, the British girl who, got like hit so hard by Alicia Baumgardner
She
that she
was
literally
knocked
couldn't
out on her
fall.
feet, right?
She was like this. Her
Knocked
body
out
just
on her
didn't
feet,
know. Literally
right?
knocked out on her feet. And then she was supposed to fight Heather Hardy, and that fight didn't happen because Heather broke her wrist. And then anyway, she had gone up to lightweight, won her last bout, and now she's jumped up to 154 to super welterweight to fight
What?
Hannah Rankin in Scotland. Crazy, right?
Just asking
So,
for it.
yeah, I mean, of course, in England, they're like, oh, Hopper by UD.
Yeah,
Rankin, put a girl in a coma. So
yeah, yeah.
we shall see how that's going to go. And, Natasha Jonas fought 2 weeks ago at 154 and did beautiful job. So it's setting up for some interesting opportunity in the 154 division. Plus, you got this Canadian fighter who's, even though she's 7-0 as a pro, she's been around since 2012. Well, before 2012 as an amateur fighter out of Canada, a really excellent boxer. She's just basically knocked out every one of her opponents. So she's coming into she's also at 154 and a real contender for a title fight tomorrow. So 154 is really hitting up for women. And then we have Chris Cyborg doing her big boxing debut down in Brazil on
The,
Sunday at
the
154
female
coming in.
Anderson Silva.
Yes. So that's really kind of interesting. I guess Eddie, before the show, we were talking about her and, how she had been knocked down in MMA pretty badly. And, she has not had the best time with Dana White and UFC. She's also,
Dana White doesn't like people that aren't white. He doesn't like women.
yeah,
He doesn't like LGBTQ people.
yeah,
He likes money from
yeah. So with Cyborg, she's also been close to people like Claressa Shields, and she has sparred with her. She's been a sparring partner for Claressa getting ready for fights. So she's been around boxing, and she's sparred at least a couple of years ago, thinking about crossing over onto this side. So that's going to be very interesting. And there's an opportunity potentially, if she wins and if she,
Right.
gets comfortable in the sport, to maybe make some money on some super fights, with the hope that she will potentially bring over some MMA fans into boxing. So this could be good. I've also heard rumors that Holly Holm may well entertain, even though she's just been inducted in the Hall of Fame, yada yada. She is entertaining crossing back from MMA back into boxing and
What?
maybe come up with some fights, because she's ready. She loves boxing. That's her first love. Part of why she left boxing in the first place, because you couldn't make any money. She made a lot of money in MMA, but now there's some, so look for that possibility, and there may be some interesting opportunity. But as I said, what it means is that there's the potential for fans of Cyborg, fans of Holly Holm,
Right.
and MMA female fighters of that caliber kind of taking a look at what's happening in boxing. So we're certainly hoping that that all happens.
Right. That's good stuff
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
All these cards that you've discussed, none of them are in the United States.
No. I mean, I got to tell you, boxing in the USA, for women, you still can't get on a bloody PBC card. Forget
Right.
it. Never going to happen. Showtime, only if somebody else is producing. I mean, they had a woman, when they did their show or on the weekend of the Hall of Fame in June, they had a female fight. It was a DeBella card. He was promoting, so he had a few of his fighters on there, and one of them had to be canceled. That was Jessica Cabrera, who fought this weekend. That's not even worth talking about because her opponent was a tomato can. But it's pathetic. Where the there's even a great fight card in Germany this weekend. This woman Sarah Borman, who's a strawweight, she's actually ranked as a strawweight, even though she doesn't have any big belts yet. But she's the main event in Germany, on a fight card with 7 or 8 fights. So she's doing a 10-rounder. It's for a baby belt, I think WBC silver or something, but it's again bringing her ready to compete at that level, getting ready for a big fight for a belt. And there's real opportunity again at that weight. So we'll see what happens. But to your point, Annie, yeah, not one of these fights is in the United States this weekend.
Right. And even when they're going to show the fights from the UK on ESPN Plus, which is requires a separate subscription,
Yep.
they're going to be on in the afternoon.
Well,
on
yeah, because they're
Saturday.
UK.
Right.
All of these
Right.
fights
US
will be
time.
in the afternoon because that's that. Nothing you can do about it. I mean, I will say, the Golden Boy card. Well, it was Golden Boy, but yeah, it was Costa Rica. That was main event, but it was Costa Rica, and the 2 fighters were in Costa Rica. Yeah, they trained in the United States, but they fought down there.
Right. Coach G
Yeah,
from
another example of boxing shooting itself in the foot.
Yep.
Almost every other sport is expanding. Women sport
say that over, Eddie. Your
Yeah.
internet's breaking up.
crap system that I'm stuck with.
Are you watching
most
the
other-
Yankees while you talk to us?
Yes, but the sound is off, so that's not why. It's because of the internet connection. The most other sports, either women's divisions or just women's sports organizations, are really starting to grow.
Yeah.
And the one that's holding it back particularly is in American boxing, again shooting itself in the foot once again with these misogynists that are running it.
Well,
So
not only that, but I mean, look at how marginalized boxing is. You can't even find it on television anymore. There's no regular boxing. You never know. Every week, where's boxing? We rely on people like Dan Raphael, who sends out his weekly letter that notes, hey, these are the fights this weekend. How would you even know? Even 5 years ago, you could watch Friday night fights with regularity, right? We don't know when fights are going to happen. And where are they shown? Other than local markets or these really funky streaming services. I went to try to get a streaming of the Jessica Cabrera fight. I mean, it was beyond dodgy. My bank called me and said, I'm sorry, you tried to put through a transaction. It looks like it's really bad.
Right.
And
I
I'm
don't
like,
trust
okay,
those
forget
sites. Right.
it. So, okay, Fight TV, you're all right, UFC, but they're just not really meant for boxing.
Right.
And their production values suck. So even DAZN's production values are still not where it needs to be to really produce boxing.
Right.
And
I agree.
Showtime, you don't know. And then you got people coming in and out as announcers. I mean, it's just lousy.
It's a shit show.
It's a shit show. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's no wonder the Center of Women's Boxing is in London, which is a shock. It's in England. It's shocking.
Right.
Absolutely shocking.
Well, look, that was excellent coverage, Melissa. Thank you. Eddie, let's jump over to you. Did you anybody watch the Canelo fight? Did you see that on the stream afterwards?
I
Yeah,
saw a
nobody
little
was
bit of it.
interested. No
Nobody
one
was interested.
I wasn't interested.
It
And I
was
love Canelo.
entirely predictable what happened.
And I love Canelo, but I was so not interested in seeing that. So I'm glad the trilogy is over and we can move
We
on.
are done. And
We
he's
are
going for
done.
surgery, right? He's
Who?
got to have wrist surgery, Canelo.
Oh,
He's
that
claiming,
skull.
you know, I hurt my wrist in the 11th round of the plant fight. It's been hurting ever since. So yeah,
Mhm.
that explains Bival, right?
Right.
Okay.
He wants
And
to, yeah,
now
whatever.
I gotta go have surgery.
Right. But look, Eddie, take us because I know the IBA Congress is coming up. So give us an update on what's going on with the IBA and amateur boxing, because Olympic boxing is on the downward spiral, folks.
Yes.
It's about to be terminated.
The comment that I would have about the future of Olympic boxing, and particularly the IBA, and I'm not a religious person by any means, but I'll say these words about it in Hebrew. Yiskadal v'yiskadal shemei Rabba. That's Kaddish, the Jewish prayer for the dead. And that's where Olympic boxing is going. If they re-elect Umar Kremlev as president of the IBA at the Congress this coming Sunday, they basically assured that the IOC is never going to sanction them. There's so much going on. I just wrote a couple of articles about this on my Patreon site. The IBA moved most of its activity and headquarters from their official headquarters in Lausanne, Switzerland, where most of the Olympic federations are, and of course the IOC.
Say that part over, Eddie.
Most of their administrative activities from Lausanne, Switzerland. Can you hear me? It says my internet connection is unstable. They moved it to Moscow, Russia. The IOC was not happy about that. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, and I think at this point,
Would you say that one more time? Did you say IBA moved to Moscow?
they moved officially. Their headquarters are in Lausanne, Switzerland, but they moved most of their administrative activities, according to the IOC, to Moscow, Russia. In the middle, while the war in Ukraine, Russia's aggression against Ukraine is still continuing, even though Russia is starting to get its butt kicked in that. And the sanctions are still in place. It's very hard to travel to Russia. All the stuff that's going on with Russia is still continuing. And at the same time, and I wrote about this, you had a situation where Putin was speaking at the recent Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the meeting of that. Now, this is an organization that's a military, political, economic, and security alliance, and it includes China, Russia, India, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Iran is in the process of joining, and Belarus has applied for membership. And the relationship to sports and boxing is this. Putin was quoted as saying, there are good opportunities to intensify sports cooperation with the prospect of holding major sporting events under the auspices of the SCO, that's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. To do this, we could think about creating an association of sports organizations under our association, unquote. And this was made
Say that over, Eddie.
said this is made even clearer by Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus, which is aligned with Russia and is Putin's pal, sort of junior partner. Lukashenko said, quote, "We suggest the possibility of holding a complex of sporting competitions within the framework of the SCO, summer events in 2024, winter in 2026, unquote," which means they want to directly compete. If they get this off the ground, which is doubtful, they want to directly compete with the 2024 Summer Olympics, that's in Paris, and the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina. And it looks like Russia realizes they're not getting back in the good graces of the IOC anytime soon. So what they want to do is set up these splinter events, split up the Olympic movement, and the IOC is not going to take kindly to any of this. Now, if they want to create this Association of Sports Federations, and IBA is officially said, and they have to decide this, by the way, in early 2023 about the 28 Olympics where the boxing's on the program. It's not that only a few months before they make that final decision, because they make these decisions, several years ahead of time to do all the planning and all of this. If boxing is off the Olympic program in 28, if IBA has no chance of getting back into being recognized as the Olympic Boxing Federation, and this thing that Putin is proposing with Lukashenko gets off the ground, what do you think is going to be recognized as the governing body for boxing by this new splinter outfit?
Yeah, but meanwhile, they're meeting in China. There is no way in hell the Chinese are going to bail on the Olympics. Are they? How mental are they? It's not going to happen.
They could still try to hold an event, patch together 5 or 6 different countries, and hope that the athletes and countries that participate in them don't get banned by the IOC.
But they probably will, because you're competing. You are like seriously going to get split up.
But how are you even getting, how do the fights or whatever the sports are, how do they even count within the amateur worlds? Because, as with IBA is in charge of elite boxing, right? That's all elite boxing. International. Let me just finish the thought. Yeah. All international boxing events are sanctioned by IBA, the Olympics being the pinnacle. So if they're then, if an organization like that, or the head of soccer or whatever other sports, the swimming, you're telling me that the swimming, the International Swimming Organization that sanctions all of the elite swimming events and gives out all the medals and everything else, they're going to then sanction the actual games of this little splinter group? They're mental. That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, especially if they're having the games at the same time the Olympics is going on.
There is no way in hell that these organizations are going to participate. I mean, fine, they want to remove their 4 countries. We revolt. We refuse to be in the Olympics. Well, see ya.
Right.
But they could try it anyway with athletes from Russia, from Belarus, and whoever they can pay off to participate in them. Remember that one of the people that's been working very closely with IBA is Roy Jones Jr. and a lot of other people have been hooked up with IBA. So they could throw money around. It's not going to be a big successful competitor, but in terms of where we have
but I got to tell you, we don't even know how long Putin's going to be in that chair. So whatever.
I agree that it's an extreme long shot, but to me, IBA as an organization has to figure we're not getting back with the IOC. So what do we do as an organization? Where do we go? And I got to assume that a couple of weeks ago, just shortly before their Congress, where was Kremlin? He was in Moscow, smiling and hanging around with Putin when they opened up the International Boxing Center. You got to assume they discussed more than just cut the ribbon for this. Why are they opening up a big International Boxing Center now in Russia? when Russia is not even allowed to participate under its own flag and name in Olympic boxing. They're making plans. They're making separate plans. They may fail, but they're making separate plans.
Oh well, that's good. Keep making those plans, Pooh.
But they're assuming Kremlin's gonna win, right? I mean,
Right.
otherwise, why make the
I
plans?
think he's going to, because he's been traveling the last several months. If you read all over the Middle East, all over Africa, the vote is one federation, one vote. And in a lot of these federations that have very little or even no boxing, you throw a little bit of money. He's been opening up academies all over the place. You throw some money at them. And you look at the Common Cause Alliance only had between 15 and 18 members signing up for it, and they were almost all from Western countries. So I
So,
don't know how strong they are.
So meanwhile, like USA Boxing Today came out against Kremlin today,
Right.
So and other teams have been very vocal in that. So well, I
It's
guess
going to lead to a split.
it's well,
It's
you're
gonna be
right. It may
interesting.
well do so, and then fuck the athletes, right? Fuck all the women
Right.
who have the opportunities that they have precisely because they've been able to box in the Olympics. It's absolutely pathetic. It's criminal, and these people just need to just
They
go
don't
away.
care.
Go into a
Right.
goddamn hole. Like, go all compete in Moscow and leave the rest of the world alone to do the right thing for young people and for the elite of the sport to have these opportunities. It's absolutely pathetic.
I agree, Melissa. All right. Is there anything else you want to cover, Eddie, before we close the show today?
Well, just one non-boxing thing, with all the negativity and all the stuff we see happening in boxing, there are some sports activities which are more fun. I've been following very closely what's happening with Aaron Judge in his pursuit of Roger Maris's legitimate home run record. And it's just a lot of fun. I'm old enough to remember when Maris hit 61 back in 1961. Now,
Damn.
61 years later, he's on the path of getting 61 for your people that believe in your numerology and
Right.
superstitions and
That
other
is
things.
so
But
awesome.
see, that's an interesting coincidence, and he's been very humble about this. And of course, it brings up the real question of what's the legitimate single season home run record, because Barry Bonds had 73 and Sosa had a whole bunch of 60s and McGuire had 70, and all of those records most people believe are illegitimate because they were just totally juiced up on steroids. Now, not that the drug testing is that great in Major League Baseball, but it's not like it was back in the past, because it was also pointed out Judge is way ahead of everybody else. It's not like everybody's hitting 60 home runs as it was happening in the late 90s and early 2000s. He's something like 20 something ahead of the next highest home hitter in America. So it's exciting.
Break it up, Eddie. Break it up.
It's fun. And I
It
just
is. Go
see,
Yankees.
Hey,
yes.
All right.
very good.
All right. So look, Eddie, tell the people where they can find you.
All right. I'm on Twitter a lot, talking about politics and sports and culture and all kinds of things at NHB News. By the way, I just found a series of articles which I haven't had a chance to read on the Times of London on corruption in boxing and the Olympic movement that just came out. So Inside the Games had a summary of them about that, quoting Ho Kim, a former top executive in AIBA, as it was then called. So try to check that out. And my Patreon page, subscribe to that. You get all the crap that's out there, all the nonsense that's not really covering the essence of what's going on. Check it out at patreon.com/Eddie Goldman and support independent journalism. And my website, eddiegoldman.com. And I'm here right now in New York New York.
New
It's so
York.
nice they named it twice.
All right, Melissa, tell the people where they can find you, baby.
So I am at Girl Boxing Now. My website is girlboxing.org. One thing I didn't mention about what we'll call Febtober is that we also have the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame induction ceremony
Oh,
in
nice.
Las Vegas. Yes,
Yeah.
baby. On October 22nd, I will be there. So we'll do a show about it.
Oh, I
Just
might
really
try to come
exciting
out.
stuff. Oh, yes, please,
I
girl.
might try to come
Please come
out.
out. So we will do a show about that. It's really exciting because it's sold out or just about
Right.
sold out. So that's really
That's
really great.
fantastic.
So I feel really good about that. So, women have that lovely space of their own.
That's
And
right.
and otherwise life is good.
All
From
right. That's
Brooklyn.
good to hear from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Right. Oh, well, look, I'm in West Hollywood today, and I am your fight goddess. You guys can find me on Twitter when I'm not being suspended, because I am that angry Black woman at Angry Afro Radio, and now on Instagram at Fight Goddess Fitness. You guys check us out. You guys stay tuned for next time. Until then, peace, love, and push-ups.